All right. Imagine you wake up, your phone has no network, there's no power, there's no communication, there's no Wi Fi, there's no internet. Everything is gone. You're not even watching me. Imagine a world like this. You know, one advantage that I think I always have in this world is I grew up in Africa and I moved to North America. And I say this because growing up, sometimes we didn't have power. We didn't have network. There was no way of communicating. And in those times, you are more stressed because you don't know what's happening with your loved ones. But back then, communication used to happen through letters, right? So everything worked out. But when we thought of doomsday, it usually felt as if bombs would be flying from the sky or you wake up to soldiers outside of your house. I was born almost like 13, 14 years after the war in my country. So by the time I was growing up, people would experience the war was still alive and they would speak about these things. So we grew up in those type of environments that the war was not really far behind, but it wasn't also present. I heard stories, people spoke about it, and we learned it through our history. When I moved to North America, whereby the last war was the Second World War, and then you have terror attacks and stuff like that. But the majority of people don't really have that experience and they don't really have those conversations unless you're talking to World War II veterans. And in most cases, I think World War II ended like in 1940 something. So if you look at that period of time that has passed, this side of the world, a lot of people don't have the experience. A lot of people who've experienced wars through TV, through movies, and through soldiers who served their nation in different parts of the world, but it's never been home. So the idea of an attack or the idea of living within those conditions doesn't exist. When I was watching the movie Leave the World Behind, I understood. It's a movie that touches on different social issues. At first, our main issue that exists, which is when a white person sees a black person and a black person sees a white person, how we judge each other just by preconception of who the next person is. You don't, I don't believe you can afford this house. And I don't believe you rented my house, in that dynamic, which is something that I feel will always exist because until maybe the next generation, maybe somehow we let go of classism and we allow that bridge of humanity. But what I like about this movie, it shows us at a fundamental level. There's a statement that said in the movie that media serves as an escape and both as a reflection. Because a lot of times, myself as a screenwriter, when I'm writing, I write to reflect the society that I live in, the things that I've seen, the experiences that I've heard. When I write about police interaction, it's impossible for me to say I've always had negative interactions with the police because I come from Zimbabwe where I had positive interactions with police. Where seeing a police officer doesn't mean that I'm getting in trouble. I can literally walk behind them and continue with my life. And I've also been attacked by the same police from back home and here, and so if I'm to write a story, it reflects those moments. It's not going to be something that I make up. It's me putting on paper what I felt. So a lot of times when I watch movies, like you understand what the screenwriter was going for. In this movie, it starts out with Mahershala Ali. Not starts out. It starts out with Julia Roberts' character and Ethan Hawke's character going on a vacation. They go into this lovely house, and then they get this surprising guests, and then blah blah blah. Essentially, there is no communication, so you cannot use the internet and stuff like that. So you're not getting information. And right now, how we use Google, like Google has become integral part to our lives. Like if someone claims to be somebody, you just run a quick search and they're like, oh yeah, you are you. So if I come to your house and I say, hey, I'm Uncle Kevin, you're a subscriber to my channel, you can literally go on my channel and be like, yeah, that's him. Or no, that's not him. Or how we rely on Airbnb or all these platforms and we don't really have a different way of trust. Like Visa, rewind 10 years ago, what were we doing 20 years ago? It's not like the world has moved on so quick that we've forgotten how to survive and how to live without these things that we've acquired. But that's the thing about the world we live in now, right? Like we're exposed to new technologies and we don't know where they're taking us, but we also have to move with full trust and understanding that we are going through change. So the movie then goes from there in terms of how do you deal with a situation that you don't know. It reminded me of a movie like Bad Box, whereby you have no idea what's attacking you, but it's out there and it's about survival and it's about how do we as humans come together and try to find answers when we can't, how we rely on our government to take care of us, but also inform us. And what happens when that government cannot do that? What happens when we don't have information? Because in the movie, you're focused on these 5 to 6 characters, but there's a lot happening if you try to think about outside of these 6 characters throughout the world, throughout different people experiencing different things. So I know that when we are watching a movie, we have to have our disbelief turned on. And then the movie then goes into different aspects of it. Okay, what happens when you see someone who doesn't speak your language? Do you help them? Do you run away? What do you do? Do you panic, turn around and zoom, go home and misinformation without the internet, right? Because right now, that quote from Denzel Washington: "If you don't watch the news, you're misinformed. If you no, if you don't watch the news, you're not informed. If you watch the news, you're misinformed." So who's telling the truth? But at least with the internet, we're able to debunk certain things. But without it, you don't have it. And how easy it is to play the game of telephone. So the movie touches a lot on how we now rely on our information technology, but what can happen when that information technology goes away. And I think it was done in a very beautiful way, and how when we look at animals, how they'll communicate with us, and how we still have to hold on to the things that made us instinctually animals and connect with the ground, with Mother Nature, and not forget who we are. I think the conclusion, I feel like it's sort of, you understand that they will find the house, they will come back and bunker down, but then it's like, what happens next, right? And I think we are constantly seeking what happens because that's just our fundamental nature as humans. We want a happy ending. But I once listened to Kobe Bryant say, oh, I don't remember, yeah, it was Kobe who was like, there is no happy ending. It's a fairy tale, it's a fable. There's no such thing as a happy ending. You get the princess, you marry her, tomorrow the sun goes up. Life continues. They find the bunker, life continues. It's your imagination. Now you can make a part two, you can come up with different aspects of it, but these things happen for a reason. So I feel like the movie was well made. It's I like the camera movement. Like, I'm not really a fan of a lot of it, but like I liked it. And I think they were on anamorphic. Someone I've tried finding out. I found out that they use the Sony Venus. What type of lenses do they use? Because the frame is wide, but it's not like anamorphic type of tall. I don't know what lenses they use, but I'll be very interested in finding out which type of setup they were doing for this movie, because it really looks beautiful, and they have some weird framing in it as well. But yeah, with that said, hope you enjoyed it. Let me know what you thought about it in the comment section.